All right. Today we're going to talk about the importance of lining up decimals. And just like I probably wouldn't trust my money with Bugs Bunny, I'm also not going to trust somebody who can't line up their decimals or don't know why they have to line up their decimals with my money. So let's talk about this. This is something that you guys have been doing without even realizing it for a long time. Okay? Because if you had something like 14, okay, and you were adding 6 to that, okay, if you were to line this up, you would not line it up like this, okay? This is a no, because we would have 4 here and 7 here, and so you're telling me that 14 plus 6 is 74, okay? Now, if I were on the receiving end of that money, I'd be happy. If I had $14, somebody gave me 6 and I magically had 74, that would be great. But that's not how this works, right? We know that we have to, in order to add these, we put the 14 and we line up the 6 with the 4, and this would be 10. We'd bring up the 1, we have 20. Okay, makes much more sense. If you start with $14 and you get 6 more, you have $20. Now, the place value is what's important to line up. So this 4 is in the ones place, and this 6 is also in the ones place. And that's why we lined those up, because we were lining up the ones with the ones. And now this 1 here is in the tens place. Okay, so that's the tens place here. There is no tens place in 6, so we can actually annex zeros in the other direction too. We can put zeros in front of numbers, and it won't change the value. So I can put a 0 there in front of the 6 if I want to show that there are 0 tens with the number 6. Okay, so you guys have been lining up place values for a very long time when you've been adding and subtracting. Okay, and we're going to see that you've been actually lining up the decimal point as well, because in a whole number such as 14, the decimal point is at the end of the number after the 4. Okay, we just don't write it when it's a whole number and we don't have any decimal places, because we don't have to. It's just another step to do. So 14 is the same as 14 and 0 tenths, or 14.0. 6 is the same as 6.0, or 6 and 0 tenths. And so when we line up the 4 and the 6 for the ones place, we've also been lining up the decimal place, because the decimal place is always going to be after the ones. So that decimal point comes after the ones and before the tenths. Okay? And so we've actually been lining up that decimal point ever since we've learned how to add or subtract. And now that we're learning how to add and subtract decimals, we need to make sure that we line up that decimal point. Okay, so let me just show you in blue over here what one of those things might look like. So if we have 2 and 3 tenths plus 4 and 25 hundredths, okay, to add these up, if I put 2 and 3 tenths here, I need to recognize that this 2 is in the ones place, and so I have to line it up with the 4 that's in the ones place. So I'm going to put a 4 here. So I'm going to do the 4, the decimal point, the 2, and the 5, and I'm adding these. So there's a blank space here behind the 3. I can annex a 0 there so that I have an equal number of digits in both of my numbers. Okay, so if we look here, the decimal points are lined up. Now we can just add these like we would if they were whole numbers. So 0 plus 5 is 5, 3 plus 2 is 5, 2 plus 4 is 6, And then when we're adding and subtracting, we can bring that decimal place down just like we would have here in the 14 plus 6. The decimal would go after all of these numbers. Okay, we're going to show you some more examples of those in the next video, but I just wanted to talk about the importance of lining up the decimals. The importance of lining up the decimals is so that the place values are lined up in our numbers and we're adding the like place values. So we're adding the ones to the ones and the tens to the tens and the hundreds to the hundreds. And after the decimal, we'll be adding the tenths to the tenths and the hundredths to the hundredths and the thousandths to the thousandths, etc.